person. There's nobody more kind that I've met in this business than Richard Fortus.
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 502. My name is Brando. Welcome to the podcast for the first time, Mr. Douglas, or Doug, I guess Aldrich. I'm so used to saying Doug, but I like Douglas. I look down at your Zoom. I'm like, you know what? Do you prefer Douglas before we get going? What do you prefer, Mr.
I
D?
I always, anytime they ask me to fill something out, I always put the full name just in case, like they check my
Okay,
license or, you're gonna come on Brando's podcast,
right.
Brando's podcast. He's gonna check your ID, so it's a better match. I'm just used to it. But no, I go by whatever, yo, I go by
Yo.
that too.
Right, right.
Anyway, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
You got it. No, no problem. And just to kind of, we were talking off the air about what I do off the air and working for radio. I have to always change my Zoom from Brandon to Brando, so I have a bit of a duality problem. So sometimes you never know. You want to ask. So Doug, I appreciate. I appreciate you coming on today, especially to talk about this blues album. And I had the privilege of having John Corabi on like half a year ago before this came out. Looking for Trouble. Uh,
Right on.
like how before we get anywhere else, that this is you were working on this with the last record, right? Like this
Yeah,
this
it was
doesn't
just it was
happen normally, right?
no, it was just a weird thing because we went down to Muscle Shoals, and we picked that studio because it was kind of a famous out of the way place that would have history to it that we would, maybe be inspired to write. And we were, but we also got inspired to jam, and that led to song after song. Then, in the end, we had, I guess we probably had 8 songs or so, and then we picked two and jammed them really quick. And we didn't really know that we were going to make it an album until a few months later, 6 months later, whatever. Marty Fredrickson, our producer, said, we should just. I don't know if you guys want to do this, but it's a really really cool representation of the moments that we were there.
Because yeah, that's I was wondering how does that happen? Where it just goes from being a jam, a lot of you are blues based, especially John, you,
Yeah.
to becoming an album, to becoming a thing, to doing the marketing, doing these things, to doing interviews. That's a
It,
whole other task, a whole other thing to bite off rather than just jamming and recording for the
it
fun
was
of it.
pretty innocent because we went down there to write and do pre-production for a rock record that we put out last year. And but that studio has got so much history that they do tours, and they have people come
Mm.
every day. They would do a tour of one day it might be 6 people, the next day it could be actually 60 people. It was just dependent on the day. But they around every day around 5 or 6 around dinner time, they would say, hey, we got a crew coming in. And we would be in the control room out of the way. They'd open the door in the control room and show people, but otherwise we were just out of the way. They were in the main room talking about the history of the studio, and little by little hearing all these stories about Aretha Franklin and Wilson Pickett and Duane Allman and Etta James and all these people that went through there. The Swampers started there, and then they made their own studio. And we just we we'd get inspired, and like we'd put on some music and have a glass of wine, or
Hmm.
Corabi might break out a glass of Jameson or something. And yeah, it was innocent. We went out and started jamming through stuff just for fun. We listened to Born Under a Bad Sign and go out and jam it, and all of a sudden, Marty one day just said, well, that day we were jamming one of those songs. I don't remember which one, but it was something similar, close to the original. And we didn't take it too far. It might have been Born Under a Bad Sign, or it might have been Going Down, one of those two. And he goes, hey, come in. And we were like in the middle of jamming, having fun. He played he recorded it and played it for us. And it was like, whoa, that's cool. And then it led to, well, hey, what if I used to love, The Thrill Is Gone. Okay, well, let's go jam it. And then somebody, Corabi, said, hey, let's, instead of doing it like jamming it like BB, let's just, for the hell of it, let's just try it in different, let's do it in 6/8, and kind of like Since I've Been Loving You, or whatever, how that would be. And that's how we jam it out. And with that particular song, I had a little part that just came to me, this little descending part. And I thought, hey, what if we make that a guitar solo and put that in the song? And Marty goes, no, save that. That's a cool thing. Put it on the end. That way, we'll just have it. It could be a song one day. And we just did that every day. And some song, once we started getting into it, we went really deep on certain songs like Black Betty. We totally revamped that, or Crossroads too. Like, also, all those songs got such great versions already. It didn't really make sense to do it the same way, unless we're trying to learn something here and push ourselves a little bit. And so we kind of messed with each one a little bit, made it our own.
Yeah, that's cool because even though, of course, Black Betty, it's these are classic songs. They've been done before. So to do it your way, to do it by the musicians that you guys are, I think is special, and to do it unique. So yeah,
Well,
why not?
that's the thing that Marty said. He goes, look, make it your own. Why? Don't worry about it. He goes, forget Ram. He's like, forget Ram Jam. And it also, Pat Travers, I think, did it the same way as Ram Jam, Black Betty. But then he goes, hey, let's listen to the original. And I was like, isn't the original Ram Jam? He goes, nah, man. We go back, and it's this guy, Leadbelly. And it was just a vocal that was, if you search it up, it's just a vocal. It's like a song that somebody recorded him singing. I don't even know how they did it, but it sounded like a work song where you're working in the fields or whatever, and it was like, oh shit. And then somebody just pointed out to me that our version of it, which is very different than Ram Jam, obviously, and it's just a vocal melody, but the way that we treated it was kind of like almost like a ZZ Top type of thing, like a Jesus Just Left Chicago.
Okay.
I didn't even think of it, because I was just trying to come up with a way to play. And I put this little offset on my fingers, so it was like, and it was a finger picking thing. Then Corabi goes, hey, let's try that. Let's do it on the dobro. And this was one of those days we knew that we were going to have something. We didn't know if it would be for a movie, or if it would be an album, or didn't really think about it too much. We were just thinking about, like, let's just get this done so we can have it, And then at the end of the song, we just did a modulation and went to this big jam thing. And so it was cool, man. We got a chance to really put our stamp on some of these songs.
It sounds like the blues at its, from what my understanding, what I love about the blues at its core, there's history there. There's putting your own spin on it. It comes organic. It's about something. That's what I miss about, or at least I didn't. With blues, it's such an old tradition. It's like, how do you make it fresh and new? And that's, and you're finding a new way to do it. And I think that's really cool. So how are
And
you?
also, being a band not known for doing that kind of thing, it's like, it's a little bit of a taboo. Like, okay, what are you guys going to bring to the table? Why do you think we need to hear you guys doing
Okay.
that song? And that's a little pressure. So, but we weren't thinking it was going to be released in the beginning, so we weren't as worried about it. When somebody goes, hey, we should put this thing out and make it an album, I'm like, whoa, I was nervous about it, to be honest with you,
Okay.
Brando, because like, I got friends that are really aficionados about the blues, and like, I was afraid, but like, we so far, thank God, we got a good response from people, and even Joe Bonamassa put Crossroads, our version of Crossroads, on one of his playlists. So that was, I was like, I thanked him. I sent him a text, and he didn't hit me back. He just read it. And usually, unless I ask him a question, he won't hit me back. He'll just read it. But I did it on purpose because I didn't want to ask him, like, what'd you think? Because I was afraid that maybe he put it on as an accident. Like maybe he didn't know, like he put it on there. So I just said, hey, Joe, by the way, it's Doug. Thanks so much for adding our song on your playlist. And, hope everything's going great on tour, blah, blah. Talk to you later. I didn't ask a question. So he wasn't going to hit me back. But I don't know if he meant to put it on there, but thank you, Joe.
So like on a Spotify playlist you're talking about, right? Or
Yeah.
something like that. That's so cool,
Yeah.
and the fact that someone as accomplished as you, and it's refreshing, and I enjoy talking to people like you that, still have this anxiety or pressure. I don't want to label it as anxiety for you because I don't want to project my anxiety, but being unsure, like, is this, or seeking not just some sort of approval, like it's just very interesting that you're just not there's not an arrogance there, knowing that you are extremely talented. You've played with some incredible big acts. You are a big act, and you can
The,
say this is me, but you're
the,
still kind of like thinking about other people's opinions. I think is very humbling, and I think it's a very refreshing trait.
well, I definitely, I need to be humble because there's, I mean, I constantly am reminded that, you know, I don't know half of what I want to know. I mean, and you see people, nowadays with the internet, you can see people doing stuff in real time, what they're doing, and I just get blown away. And there are some kids, and there were some kids even back when I first heard Johnny Lang sing. I was like, wow,
Mhm.
this kid has got a voice. He sounds like he's been drinking whiskey his whole life. He's only 15 or whatever it was, however, when he first
Right.
came out. And and it's the same way now. There's these guys playing blues music, like legit, like it's real. And so I'm just, yes, I definitely was nervous a couple times. And with the Thrill Is Gone, I was really nervous because I loved the original version so much. I just wanted to jam on the original version. I just wanted to have us have some fun and play it. And then fucking Corabi comes up. Oh yeah, we should try it like this. Okay. Well, now I'm out of my comfort zone of, like, at least I knew what I was trying to do before. Now you got me like thinking I'm supposed to try and play BB King, but do it like Jimmy Page would do it.
Mm.
And I can't even play like Jimmy Page exactly. So like I'm fucked. But we got through the song at the end of the night, and and Marty goes, "Hey, sounds really good, guys. That's cool. That's a great idea, John. Blah blah blah. Let's everybody learn it, listen to it. I'll send you an MP3, and we'll hit it fresh in the morning or tomorrow night when we got time, because we were there actually to be writing." And I got back I listened to it that night. I listened to it in the morning, and I was like, oh man, I don't even know how to begin to try and everything I did for this 4 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever it was off I wasn't even thinking. I was just playing. Like it didn't matter if I made a mistake or whatever. It was happened to be a pretty good performance, and I was like, Marty, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know what I can't even I don't even know if I can learn it, let alone do it better. I mean, it's
Wow.
just going to sound and I really was afraid. I did not want to play that song again. I was like, I don't know, man. I that's about as good as I can do. And he's like, well, it sounds fucking great. We should just use that one. I'm like, really? And we did try and play through it, but as I said, it got worse every time I played it because I was thinking too much. And the beginning one, I wasn't thinking. I was just like,
Mm.
I was, we had a glass of wine, and it was the end of the day, and it was like there was no pressure. It was just
Is-
for fun.
Are you like me then? You overthink things. You just
Oh yeah. Now I will tell you, and you probably can do this too. Like if you overthink something and you you compartmentalize it, and then you get your head wrapped around it where you relax a little bit and take some breaths. Then you realize, okay, it's not as hard as I thought. I could
Sure.
do this. And eventually you get back to full circle where you can actually own it and then kind of improvise off of that and it becomes fresh again. But that whole process of getting to that point, it gets worse and worse and worse. I've had many times being in the studio, a producer would go, okay, well, let's put a solo on this. I put a solo down and the producer would go, well, that's great. Good. Let's move on. I'm like, yeah, but I'm just getting started. I think I got something. It's okay, but I mean, I
Mhm.
know I can do better. Well, that one's great. I'm like, but let me just get a shot at it. Do it again. It's not as good. I told you, Doug, that one was perfect. You're just making it. Why fuck with it? It's good as it was. I'm like, because I'm that part I like, but that part is Let me try again, and I do something where I like, see, that works. The guy would be like, the producer would be like, yeah, but it doesn't have the vibe, man. Listen to this. This is the first one you did, right off the cuff. It's got the vibe. I'm like, you're right, but let me work on it. Doug, why? Why do that? But I could, if I was given the time, I could get that new idea to be fresh again and sound legit, But sometimes you just don't get that opportunity. So this was definitely a whole thing of these songs where I was definitely nervous, on the edge, on the razor's edge. And the beauty of it is now it's too late and I can't worry about it.
Yeah, right.
It is what it is.
What's the what have you learned then from recording this? Is it that just to kind of go with your gut instinct and not overthink things and also just on the blues end as well, not just the musical, not just
Well,
the side
I
of making the
definitely
album on the blues end. Yeah.
I definitely there's I know um I know some of the classic blues licks and stuff and I threw a few of things in there. Um but I basically I guess the biggest lesson is that it's not about perfection. It's about the vibe. So if there's a mistake or something, or maybe one of those blues licks I was just talking about, maybe if I didn't play it the way in my head that it should be played, I hit the notes, but it's not. I'm hearing it like I know how I could hit that blues lick if I played it correctly, if I played it right with the fire that I got in my head and my heart. It's not on the record like that, but you know what? Nobody's gonna know. They hear the lick and go, okay, that works or whatever. That's what Marty said. He was like, I love it. It sounds, and I'm like, I know I can play that better. It's like, well, I really think that the beauty of what we're doing here is to not, we're not making a record. We're just having fun. So let's not like overthink it. Let's let it be what it is. And so that's a snapshot in time. But I guess the main takeaway is yeah, don't overthink it. Play from the heart, have fun, and sometimes the shit that you come up with right on the spot is just fine. You know, it doesn't need to be overthought.
That's what I try to do. And yeah, the parallel for me, because I have no musical talent, that's why I'm in radio, is with these
Well,
interviews.
that's
It,
musical talent still. Being in radio as a whole, that's a whole
sure, I'm
musical
tone
thing.
deaf. Let's just call it that way. I'm tone deaf. So, is yeah, I guess when I started doing interviews, and I'm talking like in college and stuff, you write down questions, things like that, and obviously I still prepare, but I don't write them down because I'm going to be focused on those questions and lose the organic conversation, the things in the moment. And sometimes, yeah, after
Yeah,
an interview's over, I'm like, damn it, I wish I asked this question.
yeah,
That would have thrown off a whole conversation, organic conversation. It would have went in a different way. It would have been a different chat. So I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. If I went back and tried to fix it or whatever, or force that question in, it would not have been the same result. So
that's
some,
pretty amazing. Uh, that's a very astute way to approach your thing because the good part is that you can ask it next time if you want. But
Yeah, hopefully that's why I try to build a reputation in a relationship. Next time I'll get you. So
but
that's
I
why I
mean,
never ask those hot button questions because I don't want just one and done. I'd rather get a. Because if I forget something, you'll be happy to come back on. Also, I'm good like this, and this will compliment both of us, because my listeners were excited that you're coming on, and I'm very fortunate. One of my listeners is somebody that you know. He
oh,
go, he goes by the name of Richard Fortus. Richard Fortus.
Richard is one of the greats.
Richard
I love
Fortus, of
I
course, from
love
Guns N'
him.
Roses. Yeah. He loves you too, man. He says, "Oh man, I let him know you're coming on." He says, "Oh man, Doug is one of my favorite players. I've learned so much from that guy. Such a monster. He was the first guy I thought of to replace me in Daisies, and I'm so happy he did it. He's taken the band to a new level. Please send him my regards." So here's a
That's
question,
awesome.
but I want to hear your response to that, because yeah, he
Well, he's
recommended you to Daisies.
yeah, he did. He you know, it it made sense because we're all friends, in the end it made sense, but Richard was the first one to bring me up, I guess, and I had been basically I was in your position a couple years later. I had a son that was 4 years old, and I was going through a breakup, and I needed to get off the road, and that's when I left Whitesnake, and I wanted to be with my boy. There's nothing like, it's not for everybody, but for those of us who have kids, it's the best. And I was off the road. I did do a little bit of work with Glenn Hughes during a period of 2015, but um, Richard got injured in a motorcycle accident and said, "Hey, why don't you get Doug to fill in for me?" And I couldn't because I had committed to doing just 2 shows with Glenn, but it was in Japan, and I just didn't want to let him down. I didn't want to say I was committed and then say, "Oh, I got to offer to go with the Dead Daisies to fill in for Richard for a month."
Hmm.
So I turned it down, and then later they called me back, and I go, "Well, what about Richard?" And they said, "Well, Richard's the one that recommended you, and I can't say anything, but Richard's and Dizzy are going back to GN'R, and we're going to make a new record, a new start, and kind of change up the sound a little bit since we're not going to have Dizzy. We're just going to go a little more guitar oriented or whatever." But Richard is a sweet person. He's just a good, kind person. There's nobody more kind that I've met in this business than Richard Fortus. He's a monster. I say before I met him, before I knew him, I saw him play with GNR, and there were three guys on stage playing guitar that night, and Richard was the guy that I walked away going, "Holy shit, this guy he's from another planet, what he's doing." And he's very humble, but he is a monster player. There's no doubt. He's doing what they want him to do, and they give him a little spot, I think, with GNR, but he's definitely who knows what he's going to do in the future. The sky's the limit for that guy. And another thing about Bishop, he's very, to back up the thing about him being kind is, I talk to Richard about gear all the time, and he'd be like, he said something like, I found an old guitar I really want, and I'm going to sell some stuff and get it. And I go, "Wow, man, I really want one of those too." I've been looking, and he'd call me out of the blue and go, "Hey, I just was at a store and they got a guitar that you might be interested in. I'm thinking about it too." And I'd go into the store, and they'd be like, "Richard's kind of got first dibs, but if he doesn't want it, then maybe, if you want to take a crack." And that particular guitar, Richard ended up getting it. And I was like bummed about it, but at the same time I was happy for him. And because it was really cool. He wasn't for sure what he was gonna which if he was gonna get it. And then, but out of that contact that Richard and I made, and there's been a few contacts with people with gear that Richard introduced me to them. Leo Scala, an amazing guitar builder, luthier that works with Richard, also made a guitar for me that's just incredible. But down the road, I got a call from that guy from the music store, and he goes, "Hey, Doug." And I go, "Hey, what's going on?" it was a place called Chicago Music Exchange, and he goes, Richard told us that you're still looking for a guitar, and we got this one here that you might be interested in. And I was like, does Richard want it? And they said, no, Richard doesn't know about this one yet. He said that, if he told us a while ago you're looking for one. So if you want to check it out, I go, yeah, let me check it out. What is it? They told me, and I was like, I want it. I bought it. And Richard wrote me and he goes, congratulations. I'm glad you got it. Because if you didn't take it, I was going to get it. Anyway, he's a great dude. I love him.
So this is a fan question, GN'R related. I got from Facebook from John. Were you ever considered, speaking of it, you may have heard that Facebook little comment, a little ding right there. I don't know. Were you ever considered for a guitar spot during the Chinese democracy sessions?
I wasn't, only by one guy, but because he called me, and Dizzy called me. I had known Dizzy because Dizzy and I had a mutual friend, and Dizzy played on a solo record that I did way back in the 90s. And he played beautifully on it. It was so cool for him. But he called me and said, hey, we're looking for a guy to play like the Slash stuff. And we've got Richard Fortus, and we've got the guy from Robin
Robin Fink?
from
Nine Inch
Robin.
Nails?
Yeah. And he goes, we're looking for someone to do the the more rock stuff. And I was literally sitting next to David Coverdale. We were just starting to work on the first Whitesnake record that we wrote together. And I go, Dizzy, I really appreciate it, and I'm grateful, but I'm right in the middle of doing an album with Whitesnake, and I co-wrote it. I'm co-producing it. And he goes, okay, man, are you sure? And I go, I mean, and I think Coverdale heard it. He's like, Doug, just tell him you're busy, or whatever. But yeah, that's as close as it came. Dizzy thought of me that I should come audition, and he said, I think Axel would like you or whatever, and he's pretty picky about the people he's around. And but I was super excited about what I was doing, and you never know where it might have led to, but I think that they got
Was that when they got Bumblefoot?
no, oh, sorry. They had Bumblefoot. That's when they got Bumblefoot. Yeah.
They've had a lot of members over the years.
Yeah, I forget, but I remember Richard. They mentioned Richard was in the band, but and Dizzy. So, and I forget who's playing bass. But
Tommy
anyways,
Stinson. I mean, I know all the
that's right,
members. I
that's
guess
right.
the timeline sometimes it's hard to keep up. No, that's cool, and the fact that it happened right next to the David Coverdale, and I love the impersonation because I've been fortunate enough to have had him on the podcast a couple of times, and I got a kick out of when he would say "darling,
Yeah.
darling." If you don't mind, can are you? When was the last time you chat with him? Like, how's he doing? Is there anything?
He's good. I mean, he's always busy doing projects. He's doing a lot of repackaging stuff. He just put out a live Whitesnake thing that's got a lot of stuff of us together. Last I chatted with him, we always chat by text. So, but the last time I actually talked to him was sometime last year. And it's funny, he's larger than life. He's wherever it is that you're with David, he is larger than life. And so you don't have to talk too much. He'll do a lot. He'll do the majority of the talking. I remember in this room we wrote both, partially at his house and partially here at my house. We wrote Good to Be Bad album and Forevermore album together, and he'd come to my house for a week and he would take over, man. It was like he would, like, the whole house would be full of his stuff, and the closet, the food, what do you call it? The closet where the food is.
Pantry?
Yeah, the pantry was filled up with all this organic food and all this stuff. And it's just like, yes, Douglas, I feel very comfortable here. And I'm like, I bet you do. Next thing you want to do is have my wife stay with you or whatever.
See, he
But
calls you
no,
Douglas. To go back to the beginning, he calls you Douglas. See, that's a very
Douglas,
English
yeah, yeah.
English thing to say. So yeah,
Yeah, well, he
I
would
love
call
that.
everybody by their full name always, Edward, or um, whatever your name was. If your name
Sure,
was Gene, he'd be calling you Eugene.
for sure.
But no, we he's great. He's great. He hasn't. I think I you never say never with anything, and because bands always come back. But I think
Mhm.
he's enjoying his retirement at this moment.
Okay, okay. Right,
He's
never
earned
say
it.
never, but happy he's happy, and that's the most important thing, and just enjoying himself.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
number one. The music is always going to live on forever, regardless. But we're here for you. And one more fan comment I want to get in for you.
Yeah.
When
Sure.
Aaron Williamson, he said he met you a few months ago in Glasgow at the Guitar Masterclass, and he
Okay.
was
I
talking to you
remember that.
about nice about a fusion album. Could you ask if he plans on releasing it? Should have asked him at the time and thank him for the guitar pick he gave me that night.
Oh, that's cool. Um, I don't have any plans to do. I mean, basically, since 2019, I've been 100% Dead Daisies focused on. When Glenn joined the band for a couple of years, I wanted to make sure he was comfortable. He was very, it was like a new situation and being in a band situation. So me and him both decided let's just push everything else off. So I don't have any plans to release anything, but I do have some music kicking around. At some point I need to work on it. But that it's kind of rare that I do a guitar clinic these days, and I did something with Black Star where we put out an amplifier together. The Dead Daisies uses a full Black Star backline, and I've been a Marshall guy my whole life, but I used this Black Star stuff on a tour, and I was blown away. And they said, "Let's make an amp together." So we did, and I was doing a clinic to talk about it, and up in Glasgow, and it was really cool, man. Great store up there. Glasgow is one of the for those people who've never been there. It's a rock and roll town, just like New York or Philly or Chicago or wherever, Cleveland, London, Paris. Glasgow is one of them, and it was great fans. Always been going there ever since Dio, and yeah, so it was cool. I send my best to him, and thanks for the question. I don't have a plan to release anything at this moment because basically I'm busy, but maybe one day, you never know. But right now we're thick into the Looking for Trouble
Right.
promo schedule, and we're we're really it's a pleasant surprise because we didn't plan for it to be a thing, and it is.
Right on. So I said, looking for trouble. I may have gotten ahead of myself. It's out May 30th. That's when it's officially out. I'm
Yep.
losing track of time. I have to remember April 26th is when my son, Harrison Rex, aka Baby Brownstone, turns 2. So that's the big date.
Ah,
So am I going to be able to see the Dead Daisies on tour? Am I going to be able to take them to a show?
you never know. Well, at some point, yes, but I don't know what's happening for later this year. But
Okay.
we would love to. I mean, just we've been talking about maybe we'll do some just a few choice nights of just strictly focusing on this album, and do like a blues night, or something. Maybe we'll get some other artists to other blues artists to do a night with us or something. But or maybe, yeah, who knows? But I was gonna say maybe we'll do it. Maybe one day we'll get to do a gig with Joe Bonamassa. That would be pretty cool. But
You never know.
yeah, I would love to, and I'm super excited for you and your son. It's the greatest thing having a boy. My boy is now 15,
Mhm.
and like it's just gotten cooler all the time. So you've got so many things to look forward to, and he's gonna have a lot of fun. From what you tell me, he's met some pretty big stars already. He's only 2, so
I know.
pretty
And his
pretty
hair,
cool.
next time I'll show him. It's almost as long as yours.
Ah,
I,
that's
I always
awesome.
even though I'm bald now. I mean, and you see my beard, but I was blonde hair, blue eyed as a baby, so that's kind of what he is. He looks like a little. I gave birth to Kurt Cobain. I'm not I gave birth. I had a son. It feels like that sometimes.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I mean, hey, it's a joint parenting situation. I mean, I'm sure you've changed the diapers as much as
oh yeah.
mom.
Well, I'm not gonna take anything away from her, but certainly I've been pooped on and peed on and bitten and
Love it.
all those things that happen. So just thank you. And yeah, I think I may have said before, just to correct myself, I don't know why that the album is out May 30th because I get sneak previews and sometimes I'm just like, oh, the album is out. So I don't know if I accidentally said that earlier. So of course, Looking for Trouble, look for that May 30th. Doug Aldrich, thank you so much for your time. And we hope we do this again soon.
Thanks, Brando. I appreciate it, man. Awesome to talk to you and grateful for what you're doing. And thanks to all your listeners and thanks, Richard, for getting me in the Dead Daisies. It's awesome.
Right on. So that does it for this episode of Appetite for Distortion. When will you see the next one? In the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.